have the piece that we were working on earlier today. It now has 2 coats of the Cobalt blue on it from Dixie Belle. I have a coat of gator hide top coat, like the tough poly from Dixie Belle on top. And while it's dry to the touch, I don't think that it's dry enough for me to be, you know, scrubbing with a wax brush. So I'm not going to do that part on the video. But I have on this front area, I've already put a coat of clear wax, and I've painted the hardware black. That's going to go back on it. And we're going to just add some black wax to the drawers and the details on the front and the legs and all of that, and just do this front part together. I think I can do it with it still up there. So thanks for joining me. Let me get on the tablet here. That way if you have any questions or anything, I'll be able to see the comments. There I am. Do that. Make sure it's turned on mute. There we go. And if you have any comments, just let me know. This is the Dixie Belle Best Dang Wax in black. Like I said, I've already got a coat of gator hide up here, so we're not going to wax that right now. We're just going to do this part. The hardware's black, and I've got a coat of clear wax already on here to be our base coat. So now we're just going to kind of work in sections and add the dark wax for the accents. But I want it to be darker all over. So instead of like we did on the last one, just using the brush and putting it in first on darker in some areas like we did with the DIY, I'm going to go around that same way and get these edges, but I'm also going to spread it pretty quickly onto the rest of the piece, because I do want to deepen this cobalt color all over. Remember, we have this little detail right there. We're wanting a lot of the dark around that. And I did want to make sure and not just use a dark wax, but to use a wax that has black in it because of painting the hardware black. This is a really, really soft wax, but it's still, you know, it's still tough to drag over here because the clear wax that I've already put on is starting to dry. I'm going to go ahead down to the center of the drawers on this next piece, and let's put in first the areas that we want to be darker. Let's get those creases and crevices. I want to get plenty on there. When I put more of this wax on in a minute to fill the center parts of these this second drawer, it will reactivate this first coat that I'm putting on a little bit and soften it back up. So that's why I'm not really worried about it having those splotchy areas too much when I get back to it. Pull this top one out a little bit so I can get a good grab of it. Ouch! Don't do that. And then, let's see. Hey Teresa, I was thinking about you whenever I was painting this earlier today, and because it's just something that is a good first project. So if you're wanting to do a little something on something at your house, the way that this video was, is I did a video this morning on the, you know, the regular painting of the piece, and not trying to add in no bunch of, you know, fancy finishes or anything that might be, you know, intimidating for your first piece. And I was thinking for you and Kay, this would be, you know, a video that would help to get you ready to do something on yours. Now, I'm going to be careful here because I still want around this little filigree thing in the middle, I want it to still be pretty dark. It's coming off more than I want it to. I'm going to stay around it and just buff it that way. And so I'm going to come back and just touch that over with some black paint later. Since I painted the hardware black, it'll look good. This wasn't something that comes off. So, but can you see the difference? This one's already been buffed somehow now, and how bright it was here. And with using the dark wax, that took a lot of the stark brightness of the cobalt off of there. And you can leave as much or rub off as much as you want to get it, you know, muted as much as you would like it to be. Trying to spread this out a little on the top and the edges so that'll look good. And then I'm going to go one more time on this center part like this to be a little lighter. This to be a little lighter. Usually you want it a little bit darker around where your hardware is going to be. So we're going to go a little lighter on each side of where the hardware is going to be. Leave this little area where the hardware is sort of going to be a little darker. And that sort of mimics, you know, if it's had years of lemon pledge on it, crammed all the way up next to the hardware, it will be darker next to the hardware. So that's why we want to do it that way. Okay, the last thing we'll do on here now will be the crevices, and I'm not going to push real hard because I do want to leave more of the black in those crevices to sort of antique it a little bit. And make sure it's looking kind of old. But this is a start to finish, do the project in a day thing. This is not anything that's complicated. I washed this thing with TSP this morning to get all the oil and grease off of it. I primed it, and then I have put 2 coats of paint on it, and now 2 coats of wax. And that all can easily be done in one day. I think I like it just like that. So now we're going to soften this back up. It's thick, thick. Let me get it. Let me get some more. The blue is pretty in itself, bright, but I really wanted it to look more antique, especially, you know, because of it being the French provincial style. That's not a modern piece or anything. And then I'm going to use a little bit of this rag some more to go through and get those center areas. Just while it's soft, getting as much as I can off of the area that I'm going to want to buff more in a minute. This piece does not look anything like it looked when I woke up this morning. Got my grandson spending the night tonight, and I hear him running around upstairs, making the dogs bark. I love having the kids around. Hey, and I don't know if you, I'm guessing you're Verlene. Hey, Verlene. Unless you're Charlie. I don't know. Not trying to be sexist there. Thanks for joining me. I started on this piece this morning, so there's another live video if you want to look back on it, just with putting the paint on and you know, talking about, you know, doing this kind of work and not always having to have a complicated finish, you know, where you can maybe go to a flea market or garage sale or look on Facebook Marketplace or whatever and just buy you some little piece for $10 so you won't be worried about, you know, ruining anything, and then just having at it with a simple finish like this the first time to build your confidence up. And then you can try, just go over and over and over again with paint. I mean, that's the cool thing about paint, is you can try more finishes on there if you want to, and then throw the thing out in the dang bonfire if you want to at the end if you don't like it or when you're tired of it. But if you're nervous about, you know, maybe wanting to redo your bedroom furniture or something like that, and you don't want to just jump right in there because you're scared you'll mess it up, well, it's paint. You can paint over it, because you want to remind you of that. But it never hurts to go buy a real cheap practice piece, and you may end up loving the practice piece. Oh, hi, Miss Charlie. I just wasn't sure. Whenever there's several names, I'm like, I'm going to say the wrong one, and I don't know who's a Mr. or a Miss. I went to school with a girl named Charlie, and my papa's name was Charlie. And my mama always wore Charlie perfume growing up. Goodness gracious. That I wore Charlie perfume growing up too, probably all the way through probably 10th grade. I don't think from time I was old enough to be allowed to wear perfume until high school that I ever, or even in high school, Charlie was the name of the game, perfume-wise. I bet they made $1 trillion on that scent. Just going back in these edges now. I saved them till last because I wanted the dark wax to have a little bit more time to soak in, and those are the areas that I want to leave a little bit darker, so I'm not buffing as hard on that as I did the other ones. And I'm not buffing at all in this crease and this ridge here because I want to leave that dark in there to get the, you know, aged look that I'm going for. But this, you know, I was hoping to show you where you can take a, you know, a bright color paint. So you come home with the paint and you're like, oh, I did not realize it was going to be that bright. Well, this is where you can use your waxes to deepen it. Had it been too dark of a color, we could have mixed some white with it and went lighter in some areas. There's always a pretty simple fix with paint. That's why it's such a fun project to work with, because there's always a simple fix. See how much darker that is than this bottom part? Whenever I had it out here, I didn't realize how dark it was looking or getting, but when you compare it to how it was there, there's a lot of difference. So I'm going to buff a little more around the edges, lighten it up just a tad in a few of the areas. And you can buff at this until this is practically all gone, or not buff it much at all. I like that. I like that a lot better. I'm not a person who likes real bright colors very much. There are people who would leave it like this and just have the drawers like this, and that's always an option too. Or there's a really cool look going on right now where you would paint underneath the drawers down gold or brown, or any other color, and then leave this like this and do the top gold or brown or something like that. So you don't have to do your whole piece the same color either. I'm going to, because that is what I had in mind, because I want this to be a, you know, sort of an entry-level subdued way of getting some color into a place. You know, a lot of times people are afraid to have too much color, that it's going to look gaudy, or, you know, people are going to think they're not classy enough or don't have a good taste or something like that, when really it's artistic and creative and fantastic. It's called the color movement, what's going on right now, adding color into people's lives, and it's important. But this is toning it down with this dark wax is a way for somebody who wants to real bad, but who is afraid to take that leap to get the first color, a statement piece in their house. Thank you, Charlie, for sharing that. I told Eric today, or yesterday, we were discussing it. I'm going to have to, sorry if y'all see my honey there, get down to where I can reach this piece, that, you know, people, you don't have a colored piece like this in every room of your house. You pick a piece. That's your statement piece. You pick a piece to be your colored piece, and the rest of the pieces in that room will remain more not bright, I don't know, more subdued and things like that, more normal would be a good way to put it. And then the piece that brings the pop of color in your room becomes a statement piece. It becomes, you usually pick that out and you go with the color that really suits you. You go with the color that speaks to you and about who you are. For me, it would be a purple one, because it's my favorite color. I love purple and I want it everywhere. But for some people, it would be blue. And this right here is almost the DeRidder blue. And I would imagine there's going to be a lot of people in DeRidder, the town where I work, who would like this color because, you know, that's their school spirit color. I'm getting real good around the edge of where, in this crevice here, and the edge of where sort of the legs hit the table, and think about where the light would hit it. The light would hit it right here on this ball, and then it would get darkest down here in the crevice by the foot. So I'm going to go real dark down there by the foot, and it would be darker in this back piece, a little bit shadowed back there, so I'm going to put a little more there. And then come back and finish this, and we'll buff that off. This wax is soft, 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 but still dragging it over the coat that I have under it. After it's starting to dry a little bit, that's why you do it in sections, because it will give you a muscular workout, that's for sure. Okay, I know we're going to want to be lighter and brighter. Trying to figure out how to lean up against it and see it real close without mooning you. So it would naturally be a little bit of a shadow up underneath this drawer, and a little bit darker around these edges where this cut was at. Probably the lightest here in the center, and a little bit darker toward those edges. So that's how I'm deciding how much to rub off where. Just thinking about the shadows. Yeah, see how it deepened it all over? Compare it to that, let me pull it a little bit, to that far leg. You can still see how bright it was. I'm not going to get up in that corner at all. Same thing here. I'm barely going over there and stopping at the edge of it. I think that's awesome. I will, after I'm done with all this part here, I'll go back, pull these drawers out because they don't pull all the way out, and get like the little pieces of area that you can see like inside right here. I won't forget about that. Same thing here. I'm going to dab down there and bring toward that bottom, but I really want it darker right there, so I'm going to leave that. And I'm not going to buff a whole lot on this cut out corner. Now I'm going to finish filling in the leg. I don't know where this dark wax has been all my life, because it sure is easier than all the glaze making and things like that I used to do years ago. I'm making sure to get real good down here at the bottom of the feet, because it, you know, even though I have them in my rollers right now, once it's on somebody's, you know, in somebody's living room or study or wherever it ends up being, they don't want a bright blue part showing up down there, because it will show up then. And it's hard to get in there. Just using my finger inside the napkin and making sure. I'm going to do it this way. After this wax completely dries, like tomorrow morning, I will come back and buff it to get a little bit of a sheen on there. It's not to where we're going to get much of a sheen on it tonight, because I don't want to wipe all this black off, and that's what would happen if I just kept buffing and buffing. Remember, it's going to be lighter right here on this outer protrusion, and probably lighter down what would be a streak down the center of the thing. Women know this a lot of times because that's how you make your nose look thinner. You put a light spot right down the middle and put dark on the edges of your nose, and it makes your nose look thinner. Want it to look all blobbed up and dirty in there. It's hard to see where the light's hitting it if it's doing what I want. I think it looks great. I'm going to go ahead and get this other leg. Hopefully I've got it turned where you can see. Hey, Tanya. I painted this piece with this cobalt blue, which is very bright, if you can see down on this leg, but and on the top now. But once we add the dark wax, it's a whole new ball game, whole new color. Again, down on the feet. In the shadows, crevices. Going ahead and putting it all over, just thicker in those other areas here, because we're fixing to buff this right off. if I pull out this drawer, I don't know if you can see from there, but see how the bright is right next to the dark. I'm just going to buff that over on this one and go ahead and be done with it. These shop towels, they're more expensive than a regular paper towel, but they're not leaving any lint and they're very strong, so it's definitely worth it to me. I don't use them all the time for like just drying my hands, but when I need the strength on projects like this, I think they're awesome. Get the areas that I want to be the lightest and brightest first. Get that center. Making sure to get really good around the bottom of the feet. Be rocking on one of the little wheels there. Okay, all I'm going to do now is continue around the sides and then do, get inside and get the little detailed areas of the drawers and then do the top, and I'm going to be done. But I appreciate y'all joining me. And then this hardware, it was shiny gold. I'm going to put it back on. It's now black once this wax dries. And this piece will have totally transformed today. So thanks for joining me. Whew, I'm a mess. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.